Welcome to the craft room today. We are going to be making this super cute barn door decor, and I am so excited to show it to you. Okay, we're going to start off with this barn door. It has several different pieces. You can do the scalloped edge, or you can do this round edge. And then we have this bow. You can use the bow that it comes with, or you can make your own bow out of ribbon to attach to this greenery. And then we have the top of the barn door, and then the front, and then the back. And the back has these etched in pieces, and the bottom of it also has a place that you can attach it. We're going to be using a dark chocolate, a Hauser dark green, sea glass, and light buttermilk. That is going to be our palette today. So I'm going to start with the top part of the barn door, and I'm going to use a makeup sponge. As you can see, I've used this before, and I'm just going to pat some paint on it, and we're going to pat this onto the barn door. So I'll just go around here real quickly. Got it finished up. You may want to do 2 coats of this to get good coverage on it. So that is what I did. And then we're going to focus on the back of this barn door. I'm going to use the buttermilk for this one. And same technique, we're going to use a makeup sponge and just pat it on and go all around it. You don't have to go to the top. That top rail right there is going to be covered up with that other piece, so you don't need to paint up there. But you can paint around the whole rest of it. And the bottom little lip is going to be tucked into a stand, so you don't need to cover that piece either down at the very bottom. So just pat around this 1 or 2 coats. I used 2 coats on this. And I went ahead, I was trying to be careful around the etching at the bottom here, but I was just finding that the paint went into those grooves, so I didn't worry about it. We will fix it in a step in the future here. So I'm just checking to see if this all works, and it does. I just need a little more paint, so I did a second coat. And then I got a piece of painter's tape and laid that out, and I'm going to paint these pieces brown. So get those all laid out, and then you're going to get your chocolate brown. And I went ahead and used a paintbrush for this step and painted this on. It's just a little 1/2-inch wide paintbrush that you can get at the Hobby Lobby or wherever, and painted all these up quick and easy. I love painting with the painter's tape, having that stick to it because it creates less mess. And I'm going to take these off, and then we're going to do the green. This is the Hauser dark green, and just painting that on as well. You can also use a sponge brush if you'd like to. I just wanted to try the paintbrush, and it worked just fine. So I'm going to set that aside to dry. And we've got all the pieces pretty much painted with their base coats. So we're going to go ahead and do some distressing on this. I have this sander, and it's got a higher grit or more coarse grit, I guess I should say. And I'm just sanding it up so you can get some lines in it. And you can see I'm trying to go along as if it were real wood and get that texture in there. And then to get the more distressed look, I took a nice dry brush and dipped it in the light buttermilk color, and then tapped off quite a bit quite a bit of the paint, and then you've just got that little bit, and you're gonna just dry brush this on. So no water involved, we're just dry brushing. Get a little bit of paint and add that to it. I felt like it wasn't as much paint as I wanted, so I started adding a little bit more paint so that you could see that I was trying to distress it a little bit. And there you see it all done. And then I went ahead and added some dark wax to this. I just picked this up on Amazon, and I brushed that dark, it's the dark wax. Brush it on and then wipe it off. If you like it darker, you can just leave it on. But the thing I liked about the dark wax is it'll fill in the grooves where we sanded, and it'll take on that color. So I'm going to sand this piece as well so that we can do the same thing with the dark wax and give it that distressed look. So just sanding that a little bit, and then we'll come back in, wipe off the dust, and then we're going to come back in and add some of the dark wax. I was pretty heavy-handed with this, so don't panic if you feel like it's a little too much. Just come back in with a wipe, just a paper towel, and then I was checking to see how I liked it. And I decided that those little grooves on the back piece we couldn't see very well, so I went in and did a little distressing on that in a minute. But here we are, just checking to see how the colors are looking. It's so cute. I love it. So not quite finished, but just wanted to get kind of a feel for it. Okay, so we are going to go in and distress the brown pieces. I actually go in with some buttermilk and get a 1/2 inch angle brush, and we're going to do some highlights on these things with that angle brush. So there's the angle brush, and you're gonna dip the tip in the paint, and then the back side of it you're gonna dip in water, and um, so you've got half of the brush with paint on it, and the other half has water, and then that'll help you float that color on. You don't want a solid line in between the water and the color, so you just kind of play around with it a little bit, mush it together, and then you'll just paint with the light color on the top of what you're painting here. So see how that's just coming on. Water's going to be your friend, so if you feel like it's too dark, too much paint, then add some more water and just keep playing with it until it is the way you want it to be. So I just went around this a couple times, wanted to get it so it had some dimension. Okay, and then we'll do the same thing to the leaves. Just give it a little bit of highlight on the top. And here you can see it a little bit better. A little bit more paint on there. I usually start kind of light and add more and more paint to it as I like it. And like I say, just if you feel like you've messed up a little bit, just add some water to it and just keep working it, and it will blend. Or get a paper towel and wipe it off, or as you can see, I'm using my finger here. So that's what it looks like. And that's what the circle looks like. I'm just adding a little bit more to the top of it, blending it in real well. And then we're doing the rails, a little bit of highlight on the rails. And then we've got the door handle here that I'm doing. So I'm doing the top of it and then off to the right. I'm trying to think of where my light is coming from, and I want it to be from the top right. So I'm getting a little bit of a highlight on those areas where that light would naturally come in. Now I'm doing kind of a low light. I've taken the brown paint, and instead of using the white, I'm using brown and doing the shadows on the bottom part of the leaves. And here we are. I have a weeding tool, and I wanted to scrape out those little lines on that back piece so we could see them a little bit better. This worked out really well. And then see how that takes on the dark, the wax. It just goes right into those grooves and just makes it more chippy looking. And that's what the effect I was going for. So that worked out really well. Now we're just going to glue it together. I have some wood glue. It is Tight Bond 3. And I put it in these little tiny bottles so that I can have that fine tip. And so we're going to go around this and add some glue to it, kind of zigzag it around and leave it like that. And then I put this on top, and then I always want to check, see how it has that bottom piece. I don't want it to go to the very bottom, but I want it to measure up to the corners instead and leave that bottom piece sticking out. Okay, so put it on there, be very careful. The nice thing is you've got a little bit of wiggle room with that tight bond. And I like to lay it on its side, make sure that everything is lining up nice and snug and just perfect. Make sure the bottom works correctly. We're going to go ahead and do some splotches on this. I used a dry brush and I'm just kind of splotching on some of the white. Very, very fine mist. It was a little bit too fine on the circle one, so I decided to get a little bit crazy and just started dabbing dabbing the white or the buttermilk on there. I just wanted it to be a little bit more distressed looking. So it got a little bit heavy-handed, so I'm trying to wipe it off. It wasn't wiping very good, so we went ahead and sanded. And then I will take some of the dark wax and go over that. This is the dark wax, and that toned that white down really nicely. I went ahead and waxed all of the brown things. So we've got the handle and the rails. And so it's picking up the sanding that I did and filling that in with darker color, which I love that. And it just gives it a really nice effect. Now the sealing wax is like a sealer, not sealing like the above the walls, right? It's a sealing wax, SEALING, and it will seal your work. So that's kind of another nice thing about that wax. Okay, we're just going to glue this on. I have the highlight, the more light side up at the top. We're going to just make sure that everything's lining up nice and neat. Wipe off any glue excess that pokes out. And if you need to, you can take a paintbrush and wipe that out. And then I'm just going along. I have quite a bit of glue on there, so I decided to wipe that off with my finger, but you can use a brush if you'd like. And then I just glued that on and wiped off any of the excess. If you need to, get a paintbrush and you can wipe some of that glue off as well with the paintbrush. And then we've got the handle. Make sure you're putting it the way you want it with the light side up, and the light side to the right is what I did. There is some etching on this piece that you know exactly where to put this. So I put that on there. Make sure it lines up nice and neat. And then we're going to put the greenery on. And then I'm going to paint the base. The base comes in 3 different pieces. Has 2 pieces that the holes in them like this, the little slots, and only 1 piece needs to be painted. So you paint one of these slotted pieces, and the rest of them will just be glued together. So I'm just distressing this a little bit to give it a wood grain kind of look, and then going on it with some of the dark wax again, just to fill in those little scratches and then wipe off the excess. Now we're going to glue these pieces together. Pretty simple. Just line everything up, pinch it, and get it nice and neat. And then you're going to take the 2 pieces that you just glued together, and there we're going to put glue on the bottom and glue that to the solid piece. We are just about done. So that is going to slot in the back slot, and then there's going to be decorations that we can do that go in the other slots. So here's a sneak peek of what to expect. Aren't these so cute? Well, thank you so much for coming along in this journey. I hope that you are excited for this. So thank you so much. Have a great day. Make it the great Macy J Day. Thanks. Bye.